So I wanted to share a quick story today about something that I call how to express or how to communicate mistakes with our children. How to communicate mistakes with our children. And I'm stumbling on the words a little bit because there were so many hidden gems that I learned from this one experience that I just had with my daughter yesterday. And it was such a small thing. Like as you hear me unravel the story, you might roll your eyes and be like, why is that even a big deal? Well, it's a big deal because I've learned, and I'm sure you can appreciate this too, you've probably learned this as well, that when it comes to our kids, especially our kids, if there's little errors of communication that we make when they're young and it gets repeated, those little errors become a massive problem later on in our life, in their life, in the kid's life, and in our relationship or lack thereof in our lives down the road. And that's something I want to help share because now that I've learned and I'm on the other side now where I'm establishing a great relationship with my daughter, where we're able to talk to each other, whether it's good or bad, it's a beautiful feeling to know that at the end of the day, no matter what happens, she feels loved. She feels very secure. And I do too, from her. Of course, with my family, with the whole shebang, but being about children right now, being specifically about our kids, I've learned that the feeling of being loved by our kids is not something that has to fade away as they get older. Even when there's problems, even when there's disagreements, that feeling of bond and connection can stay. And again, it always starts off with like, how do we deal with the small problems so they don't become big ones later on down the road that we just don't know how to handle? Now that I've gotten into the premise of this story, let me dive into it. So yesterday, I worked a long day. And by the time I came home, it was later at night. I was tired, exhausted. I was so busy that I forgot that all I ate throughout the whole day was a croissant sandwich, which was delicious as hell, by the way. But it was one sandwich, maybe one and a half, and I was already 6-7 hours in without eating. And for me, I know you can't tell through the video, okay, but I'm almost 5'9", I'm not that tall, I'm 192 pounds, so I'm a fair-sized guy. I gotta eat, okay? And when I don't eat, I get lightheaded, I get super dizzy, and I just get tunnel zoned. I just tunnel vision. I can't figure out what the hell's going on around me because I'm just so exhausted. So I came home and I'm having dinner. I'm sitting in front of the TV, just letting my mind get off of work because I was hitting the grind all day. So as I'm watching TV, I can hear my daughter come out of her room. She goes over to the kitchen. The kitchen is right next to the living room where we're eating. And she mumbled something. And I just assumed that her mumble was probably more for her mom, not so much for me. A few moments later, she mumbles something again. And then I kind of thought, well, was that for me? And the lazy part of my brain said, you're too freaking tired, just don't even bother. Wrong decision, I know. After a few more seconds, I can hear her mom, who's right next to me. She looks over at our daughter and she says, hey, don't take it personally. Dad's just really tired. He's super tired. He got up really early today and he just got home and he hasn't even eaten anything. After I heard my partner say that, I kind of came to. I was like, oh shit, my daughter was trying to talk to me. So what I did is I just looked over at her and I explained. I said, hey kiddo, I'm so sorry. I'm not here right now. I'm mentally checked out. I've had a lot of thinking to do. I've had a lot of operational stuff to do at work, a lot of hands-on stuff, and a lot of clients that were great, but some of them were really challenging. I'm just mentally, emotionally drained. That's why I'm just sitting here. We got the TV on, but I'm barely even watching the show as I'm trying to scarf down my dinner. And I didn't know exactly what she was gonna say, but she looks over at me and she's like, nah, it's okay, Dad, no problem. I'll just come bug you later. And she just had that lighthearted, like, yeah, it's cool. And then she does her thing, grabs some food from the kitchen, and poof, darts off. Both back to her room. Now, again, that story sounds really simplistic, right? Like, why am I even bringing this up? Why is that even a big deal? I'm bringing this up because I've also had the opposite with my daughter. There was a time when, if she was in a bad mood, she would literally just lock herself in her room, close the door. There was a time when, if she was in a bad mood, if something happened, whether it's, a bad day at work, or if she had a bad day in her relationship, or if she even went through a breakup, there was times where we would not even discuss it. She wouldn't say anything. She would either do one of three things. Either A, she'd completely go to her room, so we wouldn't see her. Or B, she'd come out and just pretend everything's fine. Like, hey, yeah, everything's cool. Or C, she would come out of her room just bawling, crying. Like, I'm talking Niagara Falls for like a good half an hour. And she'd just lean over at her mom and she wouldn't say anything. So, like, imagine this. Imagine you're just sitting at home having a quiet evening, and all of a sudden your kid comes out of her room, or his room, and they're crying profusely. But they don't tell you why. They don't explain what's going on. They don't know how to communicate or express negative emotions. So here's your kid just falling apart, and then here's you as a parent just sitting there going, well, shit, like, what am I going to do with this? And then it gets more frustrating, because if you ask your child, like, there's times in the past I would ask my daughter, like, hey, what's going on? Like, why are you so upset? During those moments, I remember she'd just like be tearing, and she would just look up at me. And I don't know exactly what she was saying in her head, okay? I'm not a mind reader. But the look on her face gave me the feeling that it would have come out as something like, Dad, I'm really hurting inside, but I don't know how to tell you. That was literally the feeling that I got from her facial expression. And again, I don't know. I could be totally wrong. But what I do know was that in order to create that change, where now if she's having a bad day, which she does, like, we're human, we're supposed to have bad days, right? When she has a bad day, if she's out and coming home, she will now do this. She'll text us in our family chat, and she'll say, hey, Mom, Dad, just so you know, I'm coming home now, but I'm in a really bad mood. But I'm telling you, so if you see that I'm quiet or I'm not talking to you, it's not you guys. It's just I'm processing something that happened today. She'll do that now. Or if she does make the mistake of not acknowledging or speaking to us because she's in a really heated moment, she'll separate herself from us for a little while. And then when she calms down, she'll actually come back. This happened just last summer, where we had a major disagreement. She walked out of the house, didn't say anything to me or her mom, just except for, I'm going out for a bit, I'll be back. Just heated. And then when she came back calmer, more expressive, and she looked at us both and said, Mom, Dad, I want you to know that I walked out of the house because I didn't want to say the wrong thing to you two. I didn't want to say something I'm going to regret later. And she even went on to explain that the conversation we had, she knew we weren't trying to hurt her feelings, but we said something to her that triggered her to become really enraged. And she doesn't even know why it happened. But when I asked her, I said, hey, okay, well, I understand that would make you really enraged, but I'm pretty sure you know I'm not the kind of guy, and your mom's not the kind of gal to just try to piss you off to like a level 10. She's like, yeah, no, of course, I know that you didn't intend that, and I can know that now. And then I asked her, I said, well, then why would that have triggered you when you know our intention? And she said, at first I didn't know, but then I realized those words were from somebody else from way back when I was younger. And when they used to say that to me, I used to feel so upset that eventually I just started getting really mad about it. So now if anybody says that word around me, I'm just really angry. Like, talk about a contrast difference from having a kid that said nothing except for like, I'm good, I'm fine, or sometimes just avoid us, or sometimes just come out bawling, crying, but still couldn't explain why. To go from that kind of child to just a couple of years later, having this young lady be able to express, like, if I'm in a good, like, if she's in a good mood, she could say it. If she's in a confused mood, she can express it. If she's angry or sad, she knows that if it's too much to say verbally, she can text it to us. But she's always keeping us in the loop as to what she's going through, because she understands how she feels affects us. It affects us, both positively and negatively. And the moral of my story here, like why I'm rambling about this one little thing where I'm vegged out in front of the TV and I'm not acknowledging her, and why I made it a point to acknowledge my mistake, is because the result of me doing that and her mom doing that creates the environment as the example for my daughter to model. So now she knows it's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to be in a shitty mood once in a while, as long as you're responsible about it. And being responsible means you don't spiral deeper down into a worse feeling. And then even worse, don't even tell people what's going on in your life or why. She knows that she doesn't have to do that anymore because she sees the example. She understands that to express negativity in a responsible way is safe. She's in a safe environment. And she knows that it's better to express it with mom and me because she doesn't get judged. She doesn't get judged. She doesn't feel it. And we don't, because our goal is not to, if my kid's coming to me because she's broken, I'm not going to be like, damn kid, what the hell's wrong with you? You're broken. Like, I'm not going to do that, right? I'm sure you probably wouldn't either, right? Why would we? But instead, she knows if I explain this to mom and dad, they can at least feel where I'm coming from. And then they can give me the space to either figure it out myself, or mom and dad can help me if I'm really, really stuck. But at least they understand where I'm coming from, so they know it's not them, which raises the clarity between us as a family and raises our ability to express to each other what's really going on. So we're not in that place of feeling stuck, feeling unaware, of not feeling safe. We're in a place where the family now becomes a unit of support versus a place of judgment, which again, I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not making anyone wrong. I grew up in that kind of environment between friends and family, good meaning family, of course, but this kind of stuff, nobody knew this kind of thinking was available. Most people didn't. And in closing, I want you to know it's available. I want you to know that if you're ever in this place where your kid's not talking to you or they're not explaining things, instead of pointing the finger at the kids all the time, like, what's wrong with you? Like, why won't you talk up? Why won't you speak to me? Even though valid, I'm sure it's valid, it may be worth first looking at ourselves and looking at the way that we deal with them. Not when we're in a good mood, okay? When we're in a good mood, that's easy. Anybody can be positive when you're in a good mood. Anybody could be smiley and cheery and like, hey, let me tell you about my day. When we're in a good mood, that's too easy. But that's not where the real teaching happens for our children. The real teaching happens for our children when we feel like shit. When our day's going horribly wrong, bad, when we got a client or a business partner or someone, a friend, anybody that just gets on our nerves, and it's life, it's gonna happen. Or we just wake up on the wrong side of the bed. Like, there's always something. When we can be in our worst place and still show up in a way that's supportive to our family, we're demonstrating to our kids that it's okay to be in shitty moods. It's okay to be negative sometimes. It's okay, as long as we're responsible about how we deliver our emotions and express with proper communication on what's going on inside of us, so they can model that kind of behavior as well. So look, if you like this video, please give it a like. If you got something that you got to share, that you want to share, if you got a relatable story, feel free to leave it in the comment section down below. And if you want more videos like this in hopes that it's helpful to you, go ahead and hit that follow or subscribe button.